Hello, hello. Here we are again, coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha. You know, the show for the thinking people. And my name is Agi, and I'm the host tonight. My co host could not make it. She had an urgent matter, and she couldn't bring her body here, but she did say she was going to be here in spirit. So she's still with us, kind of. All right. Yeah, we are coming to you from 44 different platforms all around the world, about 3 TV outlets, Roku, and a bunch of social media, so you can find us anywhere. And we are also on Conscious Awakening Network. You got to go over there and see that. They got close to 50 different shows over there that cover all the stuff that we need to know about. And we are streaming over there also. And before I introduce the guest, I also want to let you know how you can get in touch with me and get in touch with Nori. Go to broadcastteamalpha.com, and that's our website, or one of them. And find the contact feature, send us an email. We'll get the email and we'll get back to you and see what we can do for you. And also, there is a subscribe feature on YouTube. You should go and check that out, because if you subscribe, first of all, that'll help us, and to become a member. If you become a member on the Broadcast Team Alpha on YouTube, you'll find a bunch of other videos that other people do not get to see. Some really interesting stuff, especially on how to reprogram the subconscious mind, and there is much, much more. So anyway, and I want to say really quick, Nori and I, 5 years ago, we created a spiritual think tank where we are doing some incredible things. It's like we reach into the quantum soup and we bring things back. And it's kind of like almost like we are creating things out of seemingly nothing. You should come and check it out. And send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. And we'll send you some information and a link to come and check it out on Sunday. It's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon East Coast time and 11 on the West Coast of the United States. And somewhere else in the world, you have to figure it out by using the international clock. So anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about our guest. She is the beautiful and talented Ella LeBain. And she's an author. She's an ET experiencer, a UFO research, and she's written, I think it's 6 books now, isn't it? I think so. Yeah.
7.
Oh, yeah. All right. And the first one, I think, was Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo. And the last one that she has got out now is The Cosmic Slingshot. And that one we're going to talk a lot about because it's really interesting. We're going to talk about also the guides to and extraterrestrials, the aliens, gods, angels, exoplanets, and she has been a world traveler. She was born in the United States, but she also has spent extensive time in Israel, and she got a science degree from the Biological Research Center in Negev, I think they pronounce it. And she is also schooled in Biblical Hebrew, and she got an astronomy degree. And she lived in South Africa under apartheid, and that was an interesting experience as a counselor. And she realized after having some close encounters with extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings that she needed to do a lot more research in that area. And she did, and she's writing about it. So, welcome to the show, Ella.
Thank you for having me, Augie. It's good to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun because we had so much fun last time you were on, and I still remember a lot of the stuff that we talked about. And now you got a new book out. Let us get a little bit of a sniff what is in the book and why. Why did you go on to this subject now?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So, this is the seventh book, but it's not volume
Oh,
seven of my book series. It's kind of part of the series. It's para, because in each one of my books, I've been including a chapter on reincarnation because it's part of the mix. Okay. And I was getting attacked by Christians who, basically say that it's a mantra that they have, which is this one scripture, Hebrews 9, Hebrews 12, verse 9, that talks about, from Paul's writings, it is appointed unto man once to die and then the judgment. So they dismiss all notions of reincarnation. So I thought, well, why is this when reincarnation is in the Jewish Bible? Okay. And a lot of Christians think it's a Hindu or a Buddhist belief, and they don't realize that it is a core belief of Judaism, and Christianity is a child of Judaism. In fact, Christians, Gentiles, they're all grafted in to the covenants of Israel and of the Jewish people. So this is a piece that helps us to understand not only why we're here now, but also how the end time prophecies are unfolding. Because one of the reasons that I put this book out was, one, to prove that it's in the Bible and it's been covered up. And so I prove it biblically, historically, and scientifically. So all those three levels are in this book.
mm,
So history is from the Church of Rome. So the Church of Rome in 570, around 570, 71 AD, decreed it heresy. They rejected it. And that was under the Emperor Justinian and his Empress Theodora. So I did some research and uncovered this story, which I thought was fascinating. I think they should make a movie about it. Is that who Theodora was? So Theodora started out as a peasant, okay, and she was helped over the wall of Rome by some of these monks who got kicked off of the Nicene Council, because back then they were arguing about how much of Jesus was the Son of God versus the Son of Man. It's kind of like how many angels can you fit on the head of a pin kind of argument, okay? So they didn't, the ones that didn't fit into their agenda were kicked off. These monks, and this is the story, helped this woman over the wall into Rome. She literally worked her way up to become the concubine, as a prostitute, to become the concubine of the Emperor Justinian. So much so that he made her his empress. So she comes in, and what was happening at that time, they were working on editing the Bible canon. So they were, sorting out what should be in the Bible, what shouldn't be in the Bible. And so she didn't like the fact that all the believers back then, and that includes the early Christian founding fathers, who are all in my book, believed in reincarnation. Okay, they talked about it, it was discussed, there were essays and writings on it, and not to mention that it's in the Jewish Bible. So we have to go back to it's pouring here. If you hear anything, that's rain. Um, we have to go back to Constantine, who pretty much started replacement theology. So through Constantine's creed, he wanted to replace Jews and Judaism with his version of Christianity, which really was the Babylonian religion.
Yeah.
In fact, I prove that Constantine died worshiping Mithros, not Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay,
he was
so
not a Christian.
right, he was not. He didn't believe in Jesus. He believed in Mithros,
Yeah.
and but it was all political because the Europe was growing, Christianity was growing, and he wanted to control. It was like a threat to the empire. So instead of like, oh, if you can't beat them, join them, kind of thing, he thought, well, I'm just going to incorporate them into my already existing religion, which was the religion of Babylon. Rome had taken that on. So, and this is, historical facts that even today's Vatican continues it, like they have the rituals, the costumes, the garb, the colors, the incense, the whole 9 yards that came from their worship of the fish god, which is why they wear the mitars, and they have all these rituals that are Babylonian. So
Yeah,
when Constantine,
including the blood sacrifice.
exactly, very good, yes, good point. And so when Constantine came in, he thought, okay, well, what he was going to do to appease the growing population of Christianity was just switch out the gods. So that's what he did. He switched out Mithras for Jesus and Semiramis for Mother Mary, and they kind of suppressed all of the gods and goddesses and turned them into saints. So, but they never changed anything else. Okay, so you still have the same religion, just and it's even dressed up in the same way. So fast forward to 500. Now they're getting ready to canonize the Bible, and this is under Justinian and his Empress Theodora, and she's like, it bothers her, okay, that everyone was talking about reincarnation because she wanted to be remembered when she died as a goddess of Rome. She wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
venerated like the statues. So it was pure narcissism. So she remembered, this was written down somewhere. I pulled this together. This is like history. So she remembered the monk who helped her over the wall, and she went back and she pulled him and pulled him out from outside the city and put him on the council, the editing council, and ordered them to delete all the scriptures in the Bible that relates to reincarnation. They weren't having this. They wanted to reject this notion because they thought it was dangerous to believe this. They thought you have one life to live, get right with the church, otherwise you're going to hell. And this was a manipulation. So so she ordered them to do that. And you know what? We can always count on, Augie? Human error, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that's consistent throughout history. So those monks were only as good as their understanding and knowledge of the Hebrew scriptures and the words. Okay. So God only knows what they deleted. Okay. But they left about 2 dozen scriptures, a whole chapter behind, plus the Hebrew words for reincarnation, which they didn't understand. Okay, they didn't even understand that that's what they were talking about, which is all there, and it's been there all along. It's just been covered up and mistranslated. So let me get straight to it. There are 2 words in Hebrew that are in the Torah, that are in the Tanakh, Jewish Bible, that relates to reincarnation. The first one is kafakela, and kafakela was coined by King David. And it literally means the cosmic slingshot, which is the title of my book. And King David, as you know, he was famous for killing the giant Goliath with a slingshot. But of
Yep.
course, he was a musician, he was a poet, he was very spiritual, and he had all this understanding, and he wrote all this stuff that, coming in, going in and out of consciousness and human life was like a cosmic slingshot, that you went out into the afterlife, got swung around, came back into a baby body. So the Jewish rabbis and the sages and everything, they wrote about this ad nauseum. There are so much books and scripture in the Zohar, in the Talmud, in the Midrash, all of this, and these are core in the Kabbalah, core beliefs of Judaism. So back to replacement theology, they wanted to suppress everything that was Jewish, including the Jewish God, the God of Israel. And this has been a long-standing cosmic battle that has been waged through the Church of Rome. So the Church of Rome became the Vatican. What, about 100 years ago, they changed their name or something like that. And why did they change it to the word Vatican? Okay, so the word Vatican means divining serpent. It comes from the goddess Vaticanus, who was the goddess known for talking to snakes and getting prophecy from the snakes. Like they would sit and divine and get all this psychic information from the snakes. So she was called, and that's where it comes from. So again, like there's that old saying, a leopard never changes its spots. And the Church of Rome hasn't really changed, even though they have, altered certain things and changed certain doctrines. Like, for instance, they relented and repented of believing that the earth was flat. That actually was one of their doctrines. Then they wrote it in. It's not. They also used to believe the earth was the center of the universe, and they hung and burned for thinking otherwise, like Copernicus and
Oh yeah.
Giorgio Bruno and all of that. So now they don't believe any of that. Now they are leading in astronomy and searching for ET through their two of the world's most sophisticated telescopes that are Earth-based, called Lucifer.
Yeah.
So you can't make this stuff up, right? And now they have all this doctrine, which is all in my books, okay, about their policy and their beliefs on alien life and extraterrestrials, to the point where they're ready to baptize aliens. Okay. So because they decreed in 571 AD that reincarnation was heresy, they really don't believe that now. Okay, because some of them actually believe that some of the popes were reincarnated from the past as well. So, this is all stuff that's like happens behind the scenes. So anyway, I put this together for Christians to prove this, that they're missing these pieces in the Bible, that it is already there. Oh, and then I took the other Hebrew word that was left behind that they didn't understand is Gilgulim, which literally means the wheels of the soul, and it has to do with the transmigration of souls, and this is synonymous with the belief of Hinduism and Buddhism, where they believe that you go around like in a wheel, and you have to, your dharma has to overtake your karma to get out of samsara, to get out of the wheel. And the Jews have a very similar belief, which I concluded is just that was the ancient world.
Yeah.
They all had their own versions of it, but it was all one and the same. So I went a little deeper and found where the laws were, because let's face it, we're all governed by laws of the universe, cosmic laws, laws of creation, and most of us don't even know half of them, okay? Not to mention the 613 laws that are written in the Torah, okay? And this is part of it. It's in the Torah. The reasons for rebirth, who gets sent back and why. I mean, it's a multi-layered study that's right there under everyone's noses, and the Christians have just completely dismissed it.
Yeah, I know that even before the Nicaea conference, 325, reincarnation was a commonly accepted concept. Everybody knew that was possible. In fact, I did, a lot of digging around when I was writing books, and us in Bhagavad Gita, coming out of India, They were writing about 9,000 years ago. There were people that said, I know in the previous life I was so and so. And before that, they explained their life several lifetimes back. It was a common accepted concept, and they talked about it.
That's right. Yes, it's written down. And the fact that the Church of Rome decreed heresy, they're the only group on the planet, religious group, that denies it,
Yeah,
is Christianity. So that tells you something. And for the spiritual Christians, because they're out there, they just want the truth. Okay. And you know, some of them like have not even taken the words of Christ literally. And the words of Jesus literally talked about this, but they turned it into a prosperity gospel, another denomination. Like he says, exactly. He says in John 10:10, I have come to give life and life in abundance. And they think that's about prosperity. If you take him literally, it means life in abundance, meaning you can have life over and over again. Okay.
hmm
If he can send someone back from a near death experience, and I
yeah,
had a near death experience, so that also inspired me to write this book, to get this truth out there. If he can send people back into their own body, their original body, for whatever reason, you're not done yet, you're not finished yet, you need to learn this, you need to get this straight, you need to learn how to live right, you need to give my message, etc. 101 reasons. He can send people back into their own body. He's God. He can put people in new bodies. Okay. And so much so that the Torah talks about this, that there is a transmigration of souls, and sometimes they change bodies. Okay. I am not in my body is in me.
hmm
Okay. So if that means that what is eternal, what lasts, what goes on after this life is my soul and my spirit, your soul, your spirit. We're it looks like an egg. It's 7 layers of light, and we
yep,
can't see, most of us cannot see it, cannot discern it unless we go into an altered state and really work on it. And even then, maybe we see a little glow, but we don't see the whole thing. Okay. And now they have Kirlian photography that can photograph your aura and discern colors.
yep,
So this is something, and this is science. This is now going into the science, is that they know, and this is in the book, is how uh, the light around our bodies, the glow that we have, ends when we die. Okay, because it moves on. It's not attached
yep,
to the body anymore.
yep,
So this is a thing. This is a phenomena. This dovetails into the abductions. Okay, so how I connected the dots to this is because just because you and I can't see it all the time, unless we're in an altered state or we work on it, consciousness and meditation, which doesn't come easy to most people. Let's face it, right? The third dimension, we don't see this, but the aliens do. Okay.
yeah,
And they identify and recognize us based on our energy bodies. Okay, because they see us walking around and they see what's coming off of us. Okay,
hmm
whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, there's always something happening. All right, and that's the energy that they're after. That's what they want to harvest from us. So I found, going down this rabbit hole, that it's not just being alive on Earth that they're after. Kind of like the concept is like milking a cow, right? So you milk a cow and the cow continues to live. You don't like deplete the cow, it just continues to produce more milk. It's the same thing with us. It's not milk they're after, it's energy. So our energy field continues to renew itself because we have what's called God sparks in us. It's the breath of God, the spark of God, the light of God, because we're created in the image and likeness of God. And let's not forget that God created our souls, which is something that the aliens can't do. They can't create a soul. They can create a body, and they can steal soul energy from us and piece it together and put it in a hybrid body, or in an avatar, or in a clone, or in a android or a robot, and but they're still not God created souls. So
Yeah.
that's what they want from us. They want our memories, they want our energy. Back in the 90s, the Robert Monroe Institute coined this energy loosh. That was his word for it. Okay, so how do the aliens harvest our loosh? They have to get us to emote. They have to get us to kind of like react and do stuff. And what better way to do that than to keep us in conflict and war and division? Because everyone's
Yeah.
upset all the time. So they're constantly putting out energy. And the aliens don't really care whether it's positive or negative, or love and light. And there is such a thing as a false light, okay, which
Yeah.
I stumbled upon in this realm, because they project this false light. They can show up as angels. I mean, even the Bible says, in Second Corinthians, that Satan masquerades as an angel of light. The Satan is just a Hebrew word for adversary and rebel, and there's a bunch of them, which is why I pluralize them in my book, right? It's not just one being. There's a whole group of them, and they masquerade as space brothers, ascended masters, angels, anything to get our attention and get us following or thinking that they're the thing, or they're it, or they're real. And that's a way to drain our loosh. And
Yeah. And for, for some reason, they want us to acquiesce or agree to it first before they go and do their deed. And you were talking about the rainbow body and the energy field that we cannot see, but we can. The people at the noetic sciences, they have pictures, Carillion photo, and there are instruments now that can measure this energy field around us. Ask Joe Dispenza. He has a lot of these pictures and records of the field that can go out something like 7 or 8 feet on each side.
yes,
That thing
yes,
is real.
I agree. And I have seen it myself. I have had the Kirlian photography done on my own energy body. So I totally understand this. And there are 7 layers to it. So
Mhm.
I have these diagrams in my books about how the aliens implant humans, and they do it in the etheric body, which we call the
Mhm.
etheric body, the energy field, the rainbow body. It has lots of names, right? But there's 7 layers to it. Like you said, it goes out 7 feet. There's 7 layers. And when they abduct people, so here's how abductions work. Somebody can be sleeping in their bed with their partner. One person is abducted, the other one isn't. And then when they wake up and they go, well, I saw you there. You were there all night. Nobody left. They don't take the physical body. What they do is they take your etheric body, your energy body, and they remolecularize it on the ship. Very similar to the Star Trek, transporter, where they went in and they got demolecularized and remolecularized on another plane or in another space. And that's
Yeah, beam
exactly
me
how
up.
the abductions work. So they remolecularize your energy. They have all your information from your energy body, because in your energy body, your soul and your spirit, they're all kind of connected. So they take you up, they do stuff. They may even hurt you. They may even press on you and leave marks. They may even cut into you, and you can wake up and then all of a sudden you have bruises
Yeah,
on
they
your
often do.
right? And
Yeah.
where does that come from if you never physically left your bed? Okay, so that just confirms the validity and the strength that the energy body has. That if it can be remolecularized and demolecularized and have stuff done to it and then put back into the physical body, then the physical body is the end result, and it has to manifest what the energy body has told it to do. So if it experienced pain, it's going to feel pain. If it has a bruise, the bruise is going to show up. If it got cut, if there's blood, if there's some, and that happens, marks, all kinds of stuff. So implants, this is my idea, my conclusion about how people get implanted, because back in the 90s they were focused on the physical, okay, with
Yeah.
Dr. John Lear, and they, he was a podiatrist and he was surgically removing implants from people's ankles and feet. But this is physical, okay? It's the etheric ones that really control the physical body. So this is what's happening in alien abductions, is that people are getting implanted in their etheric body for different things, to be programmed to go back into society, to be their mouthpiece, to be their, agitators, even to change things, to change society, to create something different. They're when we talk about replacement theology, all right, this is like a basis of understanding how the alien agenda, and this is something most people do not want to hear, because they want to think that the ETs are all good, and there's a portion of them that are not, okay, that they want to replace humans with their version of their alien human hybrid. Because this is what's also happening in the abductions, is that they're creating alien human hybrids for lots of reasons. One of them is to take over the earth when we're
Yeah.
gone, because there's something coming to the earth. And that's a whole nother conversation about the weather. It's pouring right now as I'm talking to you. The solar storms, the coronal mass ejections, the um,
Yeah. The
perturbations of planets from, yeah, about Nibiru and the Nemesis and all this other stuff that's happening. And that's like also happening simultaneously. So they know that there's going to come a time, and so does the elite on this planet. This is a known thing, that there's going to come a time at the end of this age that it will make it hard for humans to inhabit the surface of the planet for a while. And then the earth is going to get restored. There's going to be a pole shift. I know I'm going off in another direction here in another book, but we're talking about reincarnation, and how then the new age begins. Okay, so in that interim, they have a plan of putting these hybrids on the earth. They're creating these alien human hybrids because, let's face it, us earth humans, we're not exactly a spacefaring race. Look at what just happened to our astronauts that were stuck in space for 9 months. They're still
yeah.
recovering, right? So so there's like, with all deceptions, there's always truth sandwiched in the middle of it. There's always some kind of, positive reason for doing something, but it doesn't always work out. So they
Yeah.
think, well, if we could create like a spacefaring human to make the human more apt to be able to handle space, they have to do some kind of transhumanism thing, right? Which is like create like a hybrid. And that's where we're at. So the Bible talks about this time on earth that is mentioned in the book of Daniel as an empire when iron gets mixed with clay. And I believe that's what we're living through right now. So The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, back in the 90s, they made these movies about this. And they called them science fiction, like Bicentennial Man, for instance. That's a perfect example, which was with Robin Williams. Um, and they basically rolled out this whole idea of turning this robot into a human. Okay. And it was this, long movie, love story, it was all this thing. And that's exactly what's happening now. So that
Yeah.
movie might have been termed as science fiction, but it really was future science. And there's a lot of movies like that. So
Hmm.
so this ties into this like iron mixed with clay empire that is supposed to happen at the end of this age. And
Yeah.
so iron would be like the artificial intelligence and clay would be the human.
Yeah, the clay part of it, that comes out of the Sumerian tablets. That's where it was written first.
Yes.
And they were religion picked up and they put that small part in there. Now I see that we're down at the bottom of the hour, and for those of
Okay.
you that joined us late, we are talking with Ella LeBain. We've been talking about reincarnation. If you want to know about that, you need to run the tape back and watch it again. And now I want to talk a little more about extraterrestrials. Are they all good? Are they some good, some don't care at all, and some are really bad? But who are our friends? I know we have really good extraterrestrials that have our best interest at heart, and they are working on our behalf behind the scene without interference. But who is our friends and who can we consider to be our actual enemy that wants us dead?
Yeah, great question. Well, who are our friends would be the kingdom of heaven and who most people call the angels. So the angels, are multi-layered. They're like a hierarchy because
Mhm.
the top, the head, the commander of the angels is the Lord of hosts. So in Hebrew, the name is Adonai Tzibaot, and the word Tzibaot is, it gets translated in English as hosts, but it literally means celestial armies.
Mhm.
Tzibaot is armies, okay? So he is the commander of heaven's armies, which are all extraterrestrials. So they could be extraterrestrials, extra dimensionals, and ultra terrestrials, which he is. Because if he's a creator god, he's an ultra terrestrial. Superpowers. So he puts the armies in a hierarchy. And this is, I kind of delineated and discerned this in my third book, Who Are the Angels? But so you have archangels who are considered princes, and they're put in charge, they're like regents, they're put in charge of different nations and countries on earth. This is written in the Old Testament. For instance, Archangel Michael was put in charge over Israel. Okay, and he is considered the restrainer. Okay, and that is referenced in both the book of Daniel and the writings of Paul in Second Thessalonians. So we have a match there. So these archangels are like, they're the big guys, the ones holding stuff together. Because when
Yeah.
the Lord says, okay, let it go, meaning take your hands off of it and let all hell break loose, which is what is planned at the end of the age when the Antichrist reigns. So the Antichrist is in comes out of the grouping of the ones, the ETs that are not on our side. All right. So, and it is my conclusion that there's two parts of this end time prophecy that has to do with reincarnation. The person who becomes this man of perdition, he has many names: the man of perdition, the lawless one, the counterfeit messiah, the prince, the false prince of peace, who we see as the Antichrist. A lot of Christians, even, believe it or not, even though they don't exactly understand or embrace reincarnation, have said that he's going to be the reincarnation of Nimrod. So who was Nimrod? Okay, he was put in charge of Babylon. But who really was Nimrod? So it's my conclusion that Nimrod was the reincarnation of Marduk, because Marduk, back
Yeah.
to the Sumerians, was the Lord of Babylon. So he came through a man who was the grandson of Noah after the floods, who they called Nimrod, and he waged war. He rebelled against the God of gods, the God of Israel. So this is like a point in time that is going to get revisited. It's going to, like, we're going to come back to that. And he's going to do
Yeah.
the same in the end time prophecies. So that's one piece. The other piece is about the end time prophecy is that it says in multiple places, both in the Old and the New Testament. So, like in the book of Zechariah, it prophesies they will look upon, and it's actually the Lord speaking. So it's first person. They will look upon me, the one whom they pierced, and when they see me coming on the earth, they will mourn and look upon me, the one whom they pierced. So that's in Zechariah. Okay, and then it's repeated again in Isaiah, and then it's repeated again in the book of Revelation. Okay, so this is where it got me going. How can that be? If all the people who pierced him, pierced is biblical vernacular for crucifixion. So everyone that was involved in the conspiracy to crucify Yeshua, or the ones who actually carried it out, or the ones in the crowd who cheered it on and picked Barabbas over him, they're the ones responsible, right? That's that grouping. And who
Yeah.
were they? So I have a chapter in this book called the Erev Rav. Who is the Erev Rav? And the Erev Rav is this term that comes out of ancient Egypt, when the Israelites came out of ancient Egypt and they were mixing the religions. Okay, and this was the biggest challenge that Moses had, right?
Hmm.
Was trying to get them to kind of like come out of their the victim mentality that they had as slaves and move
Yep.
into the promised land, and to, and it's a consciousness shift, which is one of the reasons why they went around in circles in the wilderness for 40 years, because God wanted to kind of like get that out of them so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they
To
can.
get rid of a generation
Yes,
without.
exactly. So, but that Erev Rav still lives on, and it is always in the religious group. It's not an atheist, it's religious, and it's like distorting religion. It's religious spirits. It's and this has been a problem. Okay, so that group, and it says in the Torah that in every generation there'll be a Moses, in every generation there'll be an Erev Rav, until there isn't. Okay, when the Messiah comes, the real Messiah, he puts away all that. So they keep regenerating, they keep rebirthing, they keep reincarnating on the earth because of this. So if that scripture about they're going to look upon him, the one whom they pierce, that relates to reincarnation, because all of those people who conspired to crucify Christ are dead. They died 2,000 years ago. How can they be on the earth when he returns? Okay, so that's one proof, one of many, of reincarnation in the Bible, and that's an end time prophecy. So
Yeah.
the ETs, this is how the ETs come in, is because the Bible talks about the seed on the earth. There's multiple seeds. There's the Raphaim, the Anakim, which is close to the word Anunnaki. Okay, the seed of Satan, okay, and the Nephilim, okay, and these are all hybrids that were put together through marriage from when the 200 sons of the gods. That's the literal translation for the B'nai Ha-Elohim. B'nai is sons, Ha-Elohim is gods, the sons of gods. So
Yeah.
they call them ETs. They were extraterrestrial men that came through a portal on Mount Hermon, and they specifically went after the women and married them. It wasn't just rape and mating. They wanted to have the spiritual legal ground, the birthright on planet Earth. So they had to come through marriage, because marriage is a
Mhm.
covenant. So they took wives, it says. And this story is reiterated. It's in Genesis 6, but it's also the books of Enoch. The books of Enoch is much more detailed because the books of Enoch tells us who they are, what their names were, and what they did. And these are
Yeah.
the ETs that taught humans how to war, how to make all kinds of stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, you've been talking about the book. Do you have a copy of it you can show us? You hold up a copy of the book so we can see it.
Oh, me? Okay, yes. There goes my
Oh,
little thing.
there we
Here
go.
we go.
And that's what you want to go to Amazon and get your hands on.
It's
There's a lot.
588
Oh,
pages. So,
wow.
and I also go into the scientific proof that reincarnation exists through a story that I pulled from the CIA Project Stargate. So the CIA were studying reincarnation because they had sent the psychic spies, the remote viewers, to go look at a particular location. This was back in the 70s, and they got back information of that location on another timeline. So that's when they started realizing that the remote viewers were tapping into past lives. And then
Yeah.
they put all this money and they spent decades studying this to get information from the past because it's connected. So I end the book with a chapter about Atlantis because it's my conclusion that that we are reliving what happened in Atlantis. That
Hmm.
Atlantis wasn't just like, oh, it just wasn't like, oh, it sank. It happened. The downfall was progressive, and it was because the people left the original blueprint and they went after trying to, control things and mix and match all these different hybrids, and that was like they went against the laws of creation, and that's exactly what's happening now. So,
Hmm.
history repeats itself because we're not learning the lessons. So God puts people back on the earth to remember. And remember is like two words, like hyphen member, where we all come together and remember bits and pieces of our past. So
Yeah.
memory is a scientific thing. So people can the fact, and I have a story in the book of one of a famous reincarnation of Anne Frank. So Anne Frank was reincarnated in Sweden as a Christian girl named Barbara, and when she was a child, she told her parents all this stuff, and they just thought it was her imagination until they took her to Amsterdam, and she knew exactly, how to get to Anne Frank's house, which is like a tourist attraction now. She knew every stone, she knew everything. She gets up to the room and where she claimed was her room, and she says, "Where are all my pictures?" And the tour guide, they all looked at her like, oh, what a precocious little child, 10 years old. How does she know about this? And it was like, oh, well, we took the pictures down because people were touching them, and we're going to put them back up under glass. And that's when her parents realized that she was telling the truth. And then she went, and it was the whole story's in my book, which is kind of remarkable. But it proves that some people are born with memory of their
Yeah.
past and others aren't. And sometimes it comes and goes, just like, do you remember what you ate for dinner last night? You got to like
Yeah.
maybe think
Yeah.
about it.
There's
You know,
many stories like that.
yes, yes.
Quite a
So,
few people remember like that. And I got another question for you, though. We were talking about these old people. Let's do something for the Christians. Who was Yahweh?
oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, first of
we got to go there.
Okay. So my second book, Who is God, I expose all this because it's all about linguistics. So Yahweh, believe it or not, is a mistransliteration, um, is a mispronouncement. It's not even the name of the God of Israel in the Bible. Okay? It is
Hmm?
not pronounced Yahweh. It is pronounced Yahuwah, but it's actually a combination of three words. He who was, he who is, and he who will be. Yahweh comes from the Arabic and Germanic, and Yahweh Yaldabaoth, which is in the Gnostic Gospels, is the first Nephilim who had the head of a lion and the body of a serpent, a dragon, and he lives inside the earth. I mean, that's what it says. Okay, so a lot of people do this, and they think that the God in the Bible, the Old Testament, is Yahweh, and it isn't. Okay, so there's there's always a counterfeit, there's always kind of an imposter and a pretender, and that's a big piece because he's somehow connected with Leviathan, and Leviathan twists the truth around. Leviathan is the spirit of narcissism, which projects and blame shifts and kicks up all this dust so that you don't see him. It's a deceiving, lying spirit. And so the God of Israel is not named Yahweh. Okay, so that's a misnomer right there. And so a lot of people also like to corroborate or connect it with the Sumerian tale of Enki and Enlil. Neither. Okay, because both of them were brothers. So the God of Israel that's in the Torah, he's more like, if you want to connect it to the Sumerian, Anu, who is the father of the gods. And I prove this because of what he does in Exodus. Okay, the book of Exodus, he actually punishes the gods. So who has the power to punish the gods if not
Yeah.
the father of the gods, the God of gods? Okay, and that's something that's going to repeat in the end times. Okay, and that's part of the tribulation period, which hasn't, it's almost beginning, but it hasn't completely like gotten full. We're right on the precipice of that in terms of
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah. And the extraterrestrials still keep coming here. In fact, for those of you out there watching, go to the FBI website. There is actually a UFO section on that website. Go in there and see if you can find the smoking gun document. It's an excellent piece of paper that was actually, it's a few years back, but they explain where the UFOs are coming from, and they say they are extraterrestrials and we are communicating with them, but most of them are interdimensionals. So they come from other realities. And where would that be? What do you think on that one? Would that be other worlds in this reality or other universes? What do you think? Or could they come from everywhere?
You're asking me. Yeah. Well, it's in the Torah, believe it or not, that a person can, and the ET hybrids that belong to the earth can reincarnate in other timelines, in other dimensions, that you can actually time travel in the Torah. Okay, the Kabbalah and the Torah is all about this. There's such a plethora of information there. I mean, I could spend an hour talking about it. So if someone is born on Earth as an ET, or they have a bloodline as an extraterrestrial star seed or bloodline, yes, they can reincarnate at different times on the timeline. We think time is a construct for us. And Albert Einstein said, oh, well, we have time so that things don't happen all at once, so we can just kind of compartmentalize and organize and go, okay, there's a time for this and a time for that. So people can incarnate at different timelines. It's not all going in one direction, that's a thing. And then there's the dimensions. There's 11 dimensions that are part of Earth. And I prove this through the book of Enoch, who talks about the 10 heavens. Heavens and
Yeah,
dimensions are a similar word. And Michio Kaku, our one of our most famous physicists, came out about 10 years ago and said there are 11 dimensions to Earth. So I thought, well, isn't that interesting that Enoch wrote this like thousands of years ago? Like God knows that. We're just remembering stuff that has already been there.
yeah,
And that a lot of what people see, where where they appear and then they disappear, are interdimensionals, like you said. And they're even heaven and hell are considered dimensions inside the earth. There's three levels of hell inside the earth. Okay, I'm not talking about the lake of fire, which is not on earth. The lake of fire is out there in the universe in a spot way out of here. Okay, there's two different things. But the hell, the Gehenna, the Sheol, the place of the dead, all of that is inside the earth. The Bible talks very specifically about that. The same thing with heaven. Henry David Thoreau says heaven is above us as well as under our feet, and he couldn't be more true about that. That is such a true statement, because according to scripture, when people die and they go to the good place,
You
what
mean
Jesus called,
upstairs?
okay, upstairs, downstairs, the place of paradise, also called Abraham's bosom. This is heaven inside the earth. And how do we know this? Because at the end, at the very end of this timeline and the end times, the Lord is going to collect all of the people who died that went to heaven from inside the earth. They're living in heaven inside the earth. So this is all in my second book. It's also in Cosmic Slingshot, because I had to pull this all together to show that this is, and people get sent back. Not because of, like, some things are, you got to correct, teshuva, come back for correction, but sometimes people get sent back because they have missions. God knows your soul, and he can trust you that you can go back into this world and carry out a mission without getting sucked in, sucked down, or lost. That your soul is rooted in your relationship with your creator. Okay, and that's really what it is. The religions and all that stuff, they make it all complicated, but it's really about relationship and covenant. So if you're in relationship, you're in right relationship, then God can use you, and he can trust that soul to come back and fulfill its mission. So some people get sent back for very specific things. It's not all about punishment. And just like Jesus, who, lowered himself into a human body, humbled himself, did all this, suffered and all this kind of stuff, so people do very similar stuff for God, for the bigger picture, for heaven's sake.
They do, absolutely. And gosh, I see we're down to about 4 minutes left. But talk about the last book and mention some of the subject that you may talk about in the book, and also maybe talk about the other books, and let people know where they can find it, where they can contact you and get in touch if they like to, maybe an email address or something, and also the books.
Well, yes, thank you. You can contact me through my website, who's who in the cosmiczoo.com. There's a contact page. It comes to my email, and I email people back. All my books are on Amazon worldwide. I ship paperbacks only to the United States. So if you're outside the States, I suggest you go to Amazon. I also email PDFs for people who need to put it through a text to audio software. So I have that. It's also available on Amazon and Kindle, and I have 3 books that just got published in audio. So I'm working on getting Cosmic Slingshot in audio, probably by in a year, hopefully. But right now it's in Kindle and paperback. So book 1, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, is in audio on Amazon. Book 3, Who Are the Angels, which we talked about, also on audio. And book 5, The Heavens, is on audio on Amazon. So a little bit of this.
Audiobooks are coming more and more popular. People love to sit listening.
They are. I get a lot of requests for them. So
that's good.
Not an easy transition, to get into it, but like it is a female computer voice. It's not my voice that reads.
Okay, that's good. And I think that for those of you out there listening to us right now, there is pearls in here. You need to go to Amazon and click on the picture so you can see all the subjects in those books, because a lot of these subjects we were not able to talk about. So you need to find out what's in it and then decide. And then I have one last question for you. I always save this one for last because I want to blindside you. And
Oh,
that is, if you could talk to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
right now, yes, get your heart, your soul, your mind, your spirit right with God. And if you don't know who God is, seek Him and just get, because that's why people get sent back, is to get
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
especially to do it through this context of the world and, the darkness and the light, and not to have it, it's not easy, but faith is a currency. And if you exercise it, if you nurture it, it will serve you, especially in the afterlife and in
yeah.
the age to come, in the life to come. And I'm going to be connecting the dots to the ETs and the reincarnation in on Saturday in the online conference Messages to the Stars. So if anyone wants it, and I have a whole PowerPoint that I'm going to show pictures and diagrams and everything, a lot of what we discussed today.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wants to do that, I'll be speaking at 1 or 1:25 Mountain Time Saturday.
Okay. Will they find a link to that maybe on your Facebook page or the website?
Yes, yes, on my Facebook page, and you can also purchase tickets. It's a virtual conference.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds wonderful. Thank you for very much for being with us. This was fun
Thank
and
you for
quite
having me.
educational. This is contrarian views that we need right now because, according to Napoleon Bonaparte, he said that history is only the most accepted lies in the moment. History is not necessarily what we were being told,
That's true.
including religion.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
So
you very much for
thank you,
being.
Ivy. God
Uh,
bless.
let's do this again.
My
Yeah. Thank
pleasure.
you very much. And then for